Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. This is my first attempt at doing YouTube videos. I've been streaming a little bit. Thought I'd try and branch out, and I thought to introduce things, I would play my own course first. I plan to play through all of the challenge circuit design contest courses, um, but seemed appropriate to start with my one. A little bit of a rush job. That's probably an understatement. Quite a lot of a rush job. Um, I'm broadly quite happy with a lot of the play of the course. I like the routing. I like a lot of the whole ideas. The main thing that was rushed was the planting. Uh, the clubhouse is a prime example of this. Made in literally minutes. Minutes is probably being generous. Seconds. But I think the course has a lot of good about it, and I'm going to play it because I feel like I should play it at some point. Um, so why not first? I'm not the best player. I'm on CCD. Uh, Probably flirting with demotion more than promotion. Uh, but I have my moments. So this hole, the idea is the further left you drive, the shorter approach you get, and maybe slightly better angle into the green as well, um, with a bit of a steep drop off left. I'm not always necessarily the best at the executing strategy in terms of greens, but that shot seems to have come out quite nicely. Um, I think the plot has some nice views. It originally started life as kind of a Chambers Bay thing, and it kind of morphed into maybe a fictionally Irish setting. That kind of explains the name. Um, I'm quite happy with this view, although adding a whole bunch of trees in here last minute maybe ruins a little bit of the effect that I was going for. I quite liked when I had just the one tree on the horizon. And a nice view. This is based on, very loosely based on one of the holes down at Royal St Ports. I think it's the fourth, but the idea, it's kind of an Eden on a little bit of an upturned saucer green, um, but obviously lacking the bunkers to make it a proper Eden, and lacking some of the internal green contours as well. Decent shot. So I guess I can introduce the channel by saying a little bit about me. As you can probably see from my character in game, my name's Sam. I go by Boynsy on TGC tours. That's how to say it. If all the people that I see coming across it that don't know how to pronounce it. Um, I I do play golf. My handicap is uh, dancing around the 10 mark. Um, I also work at a golf course. I'm a greenkeeper. I've also dabbled in course construction. Um, so, funnily enough, in bunker building. So, the fact that my bunkers in the game are often one of the things that let me down is a little bit ironic. This hole broadly resembles an Alps. Um, Key feature being the blind approach shot with the bunkers kind of guiding your way. I did whiz through it a little bit um, without paying too much attention to it, but then we move on to kind of a hog's back, although the main idea of a hog's back, I think, is more likely to try and hit the middle of the fairway and hold the elevated ridge, whereas this kind of interpretation of it has you kicking left. If you're a little bit left of centre, it gives you a worse angle in coming in over this bunker to a tough green. Whereas the further right you are, maybe the slightly better angle you get. You don't want to be too far right because then you fall away down the hill. I needed to add this tree in to kind of limit the possibility of playing down this fairway. I don't think it's a more effective strategy, but don't really want the option to be there either. I don't have the longest driver in the game. I do struggle with hitting it a little bit fast at times, so I try and go for one that gives me a little bit more forgiveness, and I think that maybe sometimes that impacts my design. I don't always consider, I often put bunkers where I would have them, but obviously some people hit it 20 yards further than that. A little bit of a skyline green going on that sort of slopes away a little bit, but a nice view around over some of the rest of the plot from one of the higher points. Could have been a really nice view if I had a little bit more about the planting, I guess. No good. Oh no. Funnily enough, just how it is that my planting. I think planting is probably one of the weaker aspects of my designs on the game because I get scared of it. I feel like sometimes I can do it, um, but I don't always get it right. That's normally quite a tough hole, so that's a good birdie to make. I quite like this view. This is another one where, unfortunately, time pinch got me. This was out here meant to be, as you can tell, it is still a field, but it was meant to be have a bit more detail to it. Probably should have been made out of bounds as well, but I didn't think about that bit until it was too late and we'd properly run out of time. Kind of a Narrows vibe. Going a longer drive gives you a shorter shot in, but does flirt with the bunkers, perhaps. A little bit of a more I'm not sure random is quite the right word to describe the green, but it's got a little bit more different things going on than I usually go for. Wow. What a time to be recording. My first albatross. Funnily enough, I actually made an albatross playtesting this course as well on the drive par 4 that comes up at the end. But that's one to watch. That's not how I envisioned that hole going either. It wasn't a great shot and kicked on towards the pin nicely. Bit of a punch bowl here, although this pin doesn't necessarily accentuate the idea so much. Originally, the plan was to the closer you take on these bunkers, the better angle you get in, and then these two fairway bunkers highlight where this bunker in the background is. Depending on your angle of attack, this bunker should kind of represent where the greenside bunker is, because obviously on a punch bowl or a blind approach shot, it can be a little bit hidden. A little bit of a quirk on this course as well, that this hole is a long par 4 that is longer than one of the short par 5s on the course. It plays, the 11th plays back up the hill next to it. I'm not sure how well this hole actually worked out in the finished product. The idea is that you get a better angle in if you take on this bunker or down the middle of this smaller pathway. Maybe with a tailwind, you might just be able to sneak it on as well. If you bail out or play further back, you get a bit of a tougher approach shot to quite a small green that's got a bit of life to it. But in playtesting, I found that I often could make a decent score from this bunker in on the left side anyway. I'm waiting to get some feedback on the course, see what people think, what what changes I can make. I know it's a bit rough around the edges. I will hopefully be releasing a tour version, probably with improved planting, and maybe slightly touched up hole ideas uh, in hopefully in the near future. Um, the idea here, we get a better angle into the green further left, um, kind of accentuated by this slope. We are a little bit further down at the bottom rather than the top side, but it does kind of bank off to the right a touch as well, making us have a worse angle in, particularly to this pin. We have to come in over this bump if we go right. It's a wide enough fairway that with this wind I can probably just hit it fairly straight and hopefully just draw it a touch down. And a small amount of a speed slope there to kick you forward, but ideally, or in reality, we kind of have a short enough approach that often we can stick it close. Not that close, but I feel like that would be a really nice hole if I had spent a bit more time on the clubhouse, coming along the coastline, looking at. I should move the cursor, shouldn't I? Looking at the clubhouse in the distance, the 18th green on the other side of the little sort of inlet. 10th hole's one that I fussed with for a while. I could never really get an idea to stick. Possibly a little bit of a flatter fairway compared to some of the other holes as well. This was, I think, the last one I finished on the day of the deadline. The strategy involved in a lot of my hole designs is possibly a little bit on the nose. It's often kind of challenge the bunkers for a better angle in. But it's something I'm working on, trying to learn the subtleties of green sculpting and how to use slopes to reward some shots to some pins and punish them to other pins from various angles and so on and so forth. I didn't expect to be 6 under after I 3-putted the fourth hole. So here is the opposite side of 7. We're now playing up the hill, and this par 5 is ever so slightly shorter on the scorecard. 7 is 512 par 4, and 11 is 503 par 5. So I thought that was a neat little quirk. This may well play as one of the easier holes on the course. A fairly wide open drive, and it didn't end up playing quite as sharply uphill as I expected. Although I suppose to a back pin I still have maybe a longer iron in, but to the front I can probably hit a mid iron without really challenging those bunkers too much. And the green is a bit flatter than I'd have liked it as well. Quite big, but still under regulation. But in the real world, I've worked on some pretty fancy golf courses. I've built bunkers at the New Zealand club. I very briefly had a stint working at Comporta Dunes during the construction. I have told that story on my stream. Might be one for another time. This is a nice hole, a short hole. It was meant to be kind of a bit of a showpiece, um, with the 18th green in the background, the bunkers kind of framing it, and again the clubhouse in on the left. I'm not sure it's quite as good as I want it to be, but it's a fun hole and a chance to hit it close for a two. And the green's segmented quite, maybe a bit too extremely for some people's liking, but it plays differently depending on which segment the pin's in. Um, we have, if we go left to the fat side of the fairway on 13, especially to this pin, we kind of come in over the false front a little bit. Whereas if we play to the skinny side, it's perhaps a little bit of an easier approach, although I could have probably done with softening this a bit more. I've also worked on for 3 months out in France building one of the most exclusive golf courses in the world. Um, there are some videos of it popping up on YouTube now. It's cool. I think it's changed its name to the Condor Golf Club or something. But when I was working on it, it was called Chateau de Coudreceau. Um, it I built, well, I was part of the team that built um, the final 5 holes. Um, it was a 14-hole plot. When we arrived, we dug up one of the holes uh, and rebuilt or built 5 new ones to bring it up to a full 18. Very, very cool place. That was a little bit of a take on a Biarritz, but it's not my favourite hole design. I find that par threes in the game can be quite tough to get right. They're some of my favourite holes in real life, and difficult to make them play as interestingly in the game when you can kind of just throw a dart. Kind of, again, maybe a touch on the nose here that we can go to the small part of the fairway on the left and have a shot in kind of straight down the green, or we can play out to the right and come in at a bit more of an extreme angle. But not too much riding on it. Or maybe if you don't hit such a great shot in the approach, but um, I'm not sure how well I've hit the CC difficulty. Oh, that's a terrible putt. The CC difficulty, um, obviously quite a tough one to gauge because there's, is it 12, 15 flights of CC? This is the other hole that I made last minute. Kind of a road hole vibe. There was an idea to put a bunker in here that I couldn't really get to work visually. Um, so it's the tee just ended up getting moved back a little bit. The further left you go, maybe you get a better angle in, taking on that bunker. If you go right, it carries you down into this slot a touch, and then you have to come in over the bunker to a much narrower, much shallower green complex. I guess I get to see how difficult that shot is now. But a good chance to hit a nice long drive, so I'm only coming in with a short club, even though it's best part of 500 yards. In fact, I think it is over 500 yards to this pin. So I had hopes that was going to play quite difficultly, but maybe not in reality. Depends if you can putt, I guess. A little bit of a gap in the planting in the background as well that I'm not totally thrilled about. Here we go. This is the drivable par 4 that I made a hole in one on in play testing. I don't even think I had a pin position. It was just basically in the middle of the green, and I was just looking at it and whacked a shot that went in. But I made a proper albatross in this round, so that's always fun, isn't it? kind of idea here is that if you go for it, it's not the biggest target, and also when the pin's at the front, your ball is likely to collect in here. Maybe the same when the pin's at the back. Um, and how good a putter are you? I'm not sure. Again, the strategy is probably a little bit on the nose. Drivable par fours in the game are quite difficult to weigh up that risk reward as well, because why would you not just go for it on most occasions? And any hole that does talk you out of going for it probably goes too far the other way to talk you out of going for it. I would have liked this to have been a bit of a worse result, but again, difficult to balance everything. So at the end of the day, a fairly easy birdie. I got lucky with the addition of the new assets, particularly the castle pieces, because I always had an idea to have a castle down on this little, that it was originally a peninsula, and I dropped the land around it. But this is very, very loosely based on the golf course that I currently work at, Leeds Castle Golf Club in Kent. A nice little 9-holer. Very cool site for a golf course. Fairly short, not necessarily the easiest course around. It does have a little bit of bite to it on a couple of the holes. Maybe this is a little bit too automatic of a go for it in two as well. But again, the idea is there with maybe your ball collects in here. There is a pin down there. Pin 4 is out on this little nose as well, that's a bit tighter. Maybe this pin's just a little bit too easy, too accessible. But it does lead to some of the nicer views and a chance to get to 11 under. Hey, what a way to finish. Well, an interesting scorecard. A fun round, if I do say so myself. There'll be more of these coming in the next few days. I'll slowly work my way through all of the Challenge Circuit courses. Best of luck to everyone in the contest. Uh, thanks for coming and watching. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know if you've got courses you want me to play, and hopefully some of you might come and watch me stream as well and hang out and have a bit of a chat there. It's always good fun. Do a lot of course design. Do a lot of or starting to do more matches with viewers, and yeah, it's just a good place to be. Good bunch of people hang out already there, so why not come and join them? Thanks very much, guys.